Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Cincinnati Business Courier. Thinking of starting a startup? Charge up your phone and develop a thick skin. Finding the right workout for you at work. And we'll take you inside the latest waterfront apartments in northern Kentucky. U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. Good morning. Welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Brian Patrick. On the Business Courier front page this week, Startups Life Source. We do a lot of reporting on new businesses and the dynamic startup community here in the tri-state. But just as in show business, for every star, there are thousands more that didn't make the cut. To put it bluntly, the odds are stacked against entrepreneurs. Cincinnati-based blue chip venture company, for example, has received 15,000 business plans over its 23-year history. It's invested in 150 companies. Yeah, that's only 1%. Nationally, the average hovers between 2 and 3%. Joseph Gardner knows that reality all too well. The CEO of Akebia Therapeutics has been meeting with venture capitalists like it was a speed dating event. When Gardner raised Akebia's first round of financing in 2007, he met with 70 venture firms to get 5 investments. Earlier this year, he raised the third round and met with more than 40 firms to get 2 new investors. He says striking a balance is key.
You definitely have to have good data, and you definitely have to be able to articulate your story very clearly and cleanly. And you have to be able to do it in a way where the scientists in the audience understand it, as well as the finance guys.
Akebia is developing a drug that can treat anemia in patients with chronic kidney disease. The company has 24 employees. Gardner started the company with the help of downtown venture capital firm Triathlon Medical Ventures. He had worked at Procter & Gamble before it decided in 2006 to dump its pharmaceutical division. For more on how Akebia beat the odds and tips on how to best pursue investors for your startup idea, read the full story by Steve Watkins in the Cincinnati Business Courier print edition. Well, another local startup aims to make it easy to run an employee fitness challenge that will actually save employers money. Challenge Runner helps employers select an appropriate fitness challenge for their circumstances, then helps them invite participants, collect and analyze data, and build a leaderboard.
Anybody can go out and buy a couple of pedometers and hand them out and call it a walking challenge. But the problem is, do they really need a walking challenge? If it's cold out or they have previously run a walking challenge, they're going to find that they get very poor results. Challenge Runner allows them to create a challenge from virtually any criteria and basically create or customizes it to their own needs.
Challenge Runner is seeking partnerships with benefits providers as well as a $300,000 investment to purchase wireless fitness trackers and expand its sales and marketing efforts. Local entrepreneur Candace Klein, who first made a name for herself by starting Bad Girl Ventures, has stepped down as CEO of her other startup, peer-to-peer lender Somo Lend. Klein is seen here at a past presentation. According to the Ohio Division of Securities, Klein and Somo Lend are alleged to have committed securities fraud. Somo Lend allegedly was not registered to sell securities, committed securities fraud, made false financial projections, lied about current and past performances, made false statements about their business relationships, and otherwise misled lenders and investors. The notice of intent to issue a cease and desist order was issued June 14th. A final hearing will be held in October. Reporter Andy Brownfield is following this story for the Business Courier. He joins U.S. Bank Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio. Andy and Kelly.
Thank you, Brian. And Andy, welcome. You're fairly new to the Courier. We appreciate you being here. You know, people are fascinated by this story because Candace is such a well-known person in town. Talk a little bit about the specific allegations against Candace Klein and Somo Lend.
Well, the state's alleging that she and Somo Lend were not registered to sell securities either federally or with the state, and that she and Somo Lend in presentations misled investors with false revenue projections and lied about how many investments they had made and the return on those investments.
You spoke to her attorney on Friday morning. What did her attorney have to say?
Well, Candace was involved in drafting and lobbying for the Jumpstarting Our Startup Businesses Act of 2012, which allowed crowdfunding. Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission hasn't yet put down rules to implement this crowdfunding, but it would take the regulatory authority out of the state's hands. And now her attorney is saying that she's being targeted by the state regulator because of her role in circumventing their authority.
The state of Ohio?
Yes.
Yeah. Give us just a brief definition of crowdfunding for those who may not understand it and its implications in this case.
Right. Now, traditionally, startups will approach a number of different private investors and ask them for large amounts of money to help fund their business. But with crowdfunding, they can approach an infinite number of private investors for any number of small donations, adding up to $1 million.
Okay, gotcha. All right, you're going to be following this story for the Courier, and I'm sure people are going to be reading it very thoroughly. Thanks so much, Andy.
Thank you.
Brian, back to you.
All right, Andy and Kelly, thanks. Mercy Health has announced a partnership with Wellington Orthopedic and Sports Medicine. 18 Wellington specialists will join the Mercy Health team while continuing to see patients and perform surgery in present office locations and surgery centers. Wellington locations in Anderson, Blue Ash, Eastgate, Oxford, and Sardinia will become Mercy Health locations, employing therapists and athletic trainers. The battle to control the Emory Theater went before a judge last week, and the group trying to restore the landmark theater lost round one. Hamilton County Judge Carl Stitch refused to let the nonprofit Requiem group stay in the theater, saying no to the group's request for a temporary restraining order. This is complicated. The building is owned by the University of Cincinnati, which subleased it to one group, and that group subleased it to another called the Emory Center Corporation, who turned the theater over to the Requiem group. The corporation told the judge the Requiem project has not been able to achieve its goal over the past 3 years.
This is just a mess. There's three entities pointing their fingers at each other, and everyone's saying, no, it's not up to me, it's not up to me, it's not up to me. Well, who is it up to? And our position is we're the only company that has moved the dial forward in restoring the theater.
Now, the fight is far from over, with more filings by attorneys on all sides and possible hearings in the future. A local woman who purchased a well-known marketing firm in 2008 at the beginning of the recession has ridden that recession wave and found success. Kathy Selker started her career on the finance side, but quickly came to love marketing while employed at Northlich. She bought the company at a tough time, but has rolled out a new strategic plan, secured a contract with the Ohio Lottery, and started to turn the firm around. The firm's next challenge?
Social media has changed everything because everyone has instant access to information. We all know what's happening in the moment. It requires all of us to be able to react in the moment. It requires us to make informed recommendations to our clients and to react quickly.
She says Northlich has a long history of working with very complex organizations that look at a lot of information in real time and use it to drive decision making. Social media just adds a whole new element. Well, Capital Investment Group has opened up its new View 180 on the water apartment project in Newport. The 93-unit View 180 sits directly next door to Capital's South Shore condo tower, which ranks as Cincinnati's most expensive condo project. And View 180 isn't cheap either. Rents start at around $1,200 a month. They go as high as about $1,850.
Full speed ahead and give the area something different. So we've got, again, a lot of grays throughout the building, 3-inch centimeter granite stainless steel appliances, true hardwood floors, so a lot of those different unique concepts.
The $15 million View 180 is built atop a parking structure and has additional amenities, which include a lounge and outdoor balconies. Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch this morning, renovations coming to an historic downtown hotel. And a local chili parlor is attracting national attention. Here's some news you might have missed if you're not reading the Business Courier online every day. The Business Courier was the first to report that the new owner of the former Terrace Plaza Hotel in downtown Cincinnati says the building will reopen as a hotel. Alan Friedberg, managing principal of that company that bought the hotel earlier this year, said he is focused on the reopening the hotel portion of the 20-story building, but it will take some time and a lot of work to make over the historic 6th Street building that has been mostly vacant for 3 years now. Right now, all of the furniture, fixtures, carpeting, operating supplies, and equipment in the building are being removed. 9,100 square feet of the newly named AT 580 building at 6th and Walnut is expected to house a new restaurant this fall. J. Hammond Prime, formerly known as Moe's, a place for steaks, is an Indianapolis-based chain. The region's large number of businesses, plus 2 professional sports franchises, make this city attractive to restaurant owner Jeremiah Hammond. The new owners of the building are also from Indianapolis. The restaurant will have a bar, main dining room, private dining areas, and an outdoor patio. The University of Cincinnati football team will play its 2014 season at Paul Brown Stadium. That move will be made while a 15-month renovation is completed at Nippert Stadium on the UC campus. The renovations will cost more than $80,000. Upgrades are to begin in December of this year. Are some of your company's profits going up in smoke? The answer is probably yes if any of your workers smoke cigarettes. This according to a recent study by an Ohio University professor. The OSU study estimates the annual excess cost to employ a smoker is more than $5,800. Some Cincinnati employers have taken aggressive steps to reduce costs related to employees who smoke, notably large healthcare systems such as the Christ Hospital, Mercy Health, and TriHealth. Camp Washington Chili has been named one of the 20 most iconic food destinations across America by Smithsonian Magazine. The magazine named Camp Washington an eatery that locals swear by and tourists regularly swarm to. Hey, it is an icon here. Well, Camp Washington is a long way from Europe, but that's where we're turning now. Over the past year or two, economic growth in Europe has been a frequent topic for the U.S. The challenges facing Europe that specifically are at risk. It appears there may be early signs of a pending change in this important region of the world. In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, U.S. Bank senior equity strategist Jim Russell is back with his perspective. Jim, how are you?
Good morning.
Europe has been very volatile on its economy now for quite a while. Where do things stand now?
Well, the times, they are changing, and maybe for the better. Maybe this falls under the heading of things we thought we'd never see. Europe, we got some data just last week that Europe is officially out of recession as of the end of the second quarter. Some things have really moved forward. You can see the graph there from where we came from in the depths of the financial crisis, where we've been, a dip back into recession over the last 18 months to 2 years, and a little bit of a weak recovery is expected. I will tell you that the second quarter GDP for the Eurozone, which are the 17 countries that really have the euro as a central currency, that data is reflected on the graph there. 0.3% growth in the second quarter. We would expect that to accelerate and perhaps get to 1.1% by 2014. So the news is good. Why is this important at all? Europe combined is the largest economic entity in the world. It's larger than the United States. It's larger than China. So if Europe wins, everybody wins.
Greece, of course, some of the worst financial problems. Is Greece out of the woods?
Well, yes and no. We'll tell you that there is really a non-homogeneous type of view there. Europe is being led by Germany, candidly, and we have a table that really explains some of the disparate growth rates that we're seeing right this minute. The Eurozone, as mentioned, 0.3% growth in the second quarter. Again, Germany may be the strongest of the bunch at 0.7. You can see France there. Greece really brings up the rear at negative 4.6. We'll tell you that Italy, Spain, and really southern Europe in general continue to struggle just a little bit. So what we're hoping to see, Brian, is that after the German elections, which are slated for September 22nd, a little bit more pro-growth, less austerity type of measure and tone will take place and take root in Europe. So we think that Europe's on the mend. Slow but sure. It ought to remind us of our own recovery, really.
Jim, you say what we're hoping to see. Why should we hope Europe does well? What does that have to do with the U.S. economy?
The U.S. economy is especially linked to Europe. It's one of the reasons, candidly, why our recovery has been so anemic, so slow. The job growth has been so slow. we export a lot of goods and services to Europe. You can see that the U.S. corporate profits really peaked in 2007 or 8 in terms of the percentage that is attributable to non-U.S. areas, Europe being a big part of that. You can see the steep decline there over the last several years. Again, this is all attributable, a lot of it is attributable to Europe being in a recession. So if Europe improves, job growth here improves, the global economy improves, everybody again wins. So what we have is Europe accelerating, perhaps China deaccelerating, and perhaps the emerging markets following China a little bit. So there are some offsets, but if Europe does continue to move forward, that means U.S. jobs, and that's a good thing.
All right, Jim, you know I always say we appreciate U.S. Bank. I want to mention U.S. Bank Cincinnati Market President Mike Prescott will be delivering school supplies to the St. Aloysius students. More than 200 backpacks tomorrow. So thanks to you and U.S. Bank, and let Mike know how much we appreciate him.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
All right, still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch this morning. More new housing coming near Washington Park. The focus on striking a balance to create housing for all income levels in OTR is next. Thanks a lot for being with us this morning on U.S. Bank Business Watch. City Council here in Cincinnati has approved funding and a property tax exemption for a 13-unit low-income apartment development at 14th and Republic Streets and Over the Rhine near newly renovated Washington Park. Washington Park is one of the city's oldest parks. The nonprofit Over the Rhine Community Housing will develop the apartments, which is being called Beasley Place. The project costing $2.8 million. Construction is expected to start this summer and be completed by July 2015. Over the Rhine Community Housing will gut the buildings, which currently have 16 units that have been vacant now for more than 10 years. There will be a storefront for commercial use. Now, depending on income, rent and utilities could be as low as $360 per month for a one-bedroom apartment. Now, one of the criticisms of Over the Rhine's resurgence is that it has focused on bringing upscale market rate housing into the neighborhood and done little to better house some of the low-income folks already living in Over the Rhine. In this morning's Business Insight, I'm joined by Mary Burke Rivers, Executive Director of Over the Rhine Community Housing, with more on balancing housing needs for all in Cincinnati's oldest neighborhood. Mary, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Tell us first about your organization, what it does.
Over the Rhine Community Housing, we've been around for over 30 years, and we're the result of the merger of two long-standing community development corporations. One was Restock, and one was Over the Rhine Housing Network, and we merged in 2006. We've developed over 600 units of housing in the neighborhood, and we currently manage about 400 units of affordable housing. They range from permanent supportive housing for people who are chronically homeless, chronic alcoholics, to just simple affordable housing for people who are working Cincinnatians who have low wages and the market doesn't reach because of their low wages.
There's a lot of excitement over the redevelopment of Over the Rhine. There's a lot of new development there. A whole new population is looking to Over the Rhine for its future home. How do you meet these challenges of balancing that, which is exciting for the city, with making sure that the people who have made this neighborhood their home for years aren't getting kicked out, basically, or squeezed out?
Right, really good question. And I don't think that our country has a really good model of how to make that work. I think so far in Over the Rhine, things are going fairly well in regard to that. We have lost a lot of units over the last 10 years. It can't all be directly correlated with the redevelopment. But projects like this and support from the City of Cincinnati, the Community Council, 3CDC, will make more projects like this possible. It's 13 units, and what we like to articulate is that the need for affordable housing is still very deep and prevailing. And a lot of people do value the mixed income nature of Over the Rhine. So if we truly value that and we value housing for everyone, then we need to continue to invest in affordable housing in Over the Rhine. Because as you say, the market is really taking off there. We've seen it firsthand right around the corner from our office on Pleasant Street. Properties that appreciate like $90,000 over the course of $90,000 over the course of a 12-month period. It's going to have an impact on affordable housing. One, we can't buy additional properties, but also the impact in terms of real estate taxes. So in the project, this case, you know, we won't have to pay higher real estate taxes because of the abatement. But that's a cost that we have to figure out how to cover if we're going to continue to provide affordable rents.
Do you think the city is committed, its leadership and the business community is committed to keeping Over the Rhine a place where everyone can live that really wants to live there, especially those who have lived there for all their lives and maybe generations?
Yeah, we really hope so. And we want to talk about it whenever we have the opportunity, that there's value here in the community, that there's good people who we pass every day on the street, whether it's the folks who are cleaning our offices, or driving our school buses, or the folks who take care of us when we go to the hospital, nursing aides, the people who serve us food in restaurants. They all need affordable housing, and we have this great opportunity in Over the Rhine to demonstrate to other neighborhoods in the city that you can do affordable housing and you can have market rate upscale housing right next to each other, and it can work.
One of the adjectives used with Over the Rhine often is historic.
Yes.
And obviously your organization has chosen, for maybe economic reasons, to keep some of the history, to use existing buildings versus starting over. Is that by design?
Yeah, when you use the historic buildings, there's opportunity for different kinds of financing. In this project, we have federal historic tax credits and state historic tax credits. So again, it's an opportunity for banks and investors to invest into the project and get a tax benefit for it. So there's that advantage.
All right, Mary, thank you for joining us, and we'll keep up to date on that project and your organization. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning, 6:30 in the morning here on Local 12, 10 a.m. for you late risers on the CW. For more business news all during the week, you can visit the Business Courier online and sign up for our daily emails. The address is CincinnatiBusinessCourier.com. Go ahead and sign up now. You'll value those emails coming each day to keep you up to date. For all of us at U.S. Bank Business Watch, I'm Brian Patrick. Have a great Sunday and a good week.